In the world of reality television, few series have managed to capture both the awe-inspiring beauty of the wild and the raw, unfiltered struggles of family life, quite like Alaskan bush people. The show, which follows the resilient Brown family as they navigate the challenges of living off-grid in the rugged Alaskan wilderness, has become a phenomenon. But beneath the picturesque landscapes and tales of survival lies a story far more complex, shadowed by heartbreak, scandal, and secrets that stretch beyond what viewers see on their screens. The heart of the series has always been the Brown family, a close-knit clan whose bonds have been tested by both the unforgiving wilderness and the even more unpredictable drama of family life. Led by patriarch Billy Brown, the family built their own slice of paradise in the Alaskan frontier, living a life dictated by survival, ingenuity, and an unwavering sense of togetherness. But even in the remote wild, tragedy has a way of finding its way in. Our journey into the family's struggles begins with Noah Brown, the ingenious, inventive son whose talents turned the Alaskan wilderness into his personal playground for engineering experiments. Whether it was rigging water systems or crafting makeshift tools from whatever nature provided, Noah was the family's problem solver. Yet behind his brilliant mind and resourceful nature was a man haunted by personal loss. The world came crashing down for Noah in February 2021 when his father, Billy Brown, passed away due to a seizure. This heartbreaking event shattered the family, leaving them to grapple with their grief while the cameras continued to roll. For Noah, this was just the latest in a series of personal tragedies that had plagued his life, both on and off the screen. But even before his father's death, Noah's world had been marked by turmoil. In 2020, the Brown family home was destroyed in the catastrophic Washington wildfires, leaving them to once again rebuild their lives from the ashes. This loss was a harsh reminder that even the strongest bonds and the most resilient spirits are not immune to the forces of nature. Yet the challenges facing Noah and his family were not just the product of natural disasters. The Brown family's reputation took a serious hit in 2016 when Billy and his son Joshua Bam Bam Brown were charged with falsifying information to receive Alaska's Permanent Fund Dividend, PFD, a benefit meant for residents who live in the state year-round. The family's image as honest, rugged frontiersmen was called into question as the scandal unfolded, with Billy and Bam Bam ultimately pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges. They served 30 days of house arrest and paid significant fines. For a family that had built their brand on self-reliance and authenticity, this scandal cast a shadow over their public image, leaving fans to question how much of the show was genuine and how much was carefully curated for the cameras. But even as the legal battles and public scrutiny mounted, the Browns pressed on, their story becoming a tale of resilience in the face of adversity. But the storm didn't end there. Behind the camera, family disputes festered. Arguments about money, control, and the direction of the family business became an undercurrent that threatened to tear them apart. Like any family, the Browns had their moments of joy, but their conflicts were laid bare for millions to witness. Rain Brown, the youngest of the clan, was thrust into the spotlight as a symbol of hope. Her wide smile and infectious spirit masked an internal struggle as she faced the overwhelming pressures of fame and the expectations placed upon her. Rain's journey is one of quiet resilience, a story of a young woman growing up too fast, forced to grapple with mental health challenges that came with being part of a famous family. And then there is Ami Brown, the family matriarch, whose battle with stage 3 lung cancer in 2017 tested the family's strength like never before. As her health deteriorated, the Brown children were forced to confront the reality of losing the woman who had been their guiding light. The cameras captured their tears, their whispered prayers, and their desperate hope for a miracle. But not all struggles were captured on camera. Within the family, unresolved tensions simmered. Sibling rivalries, clashing personalities, and conflicting dreams created a storm beneath the surface. Matt Brown, the eldest son, struggled with addiction, a battle that played out both privately and publicly. His departure from the show was marked by whispers of conflict, addiction recovery, and estrangement. The wilderness was unforgiving, but the true test of the Brown family was their ability to survive each other. Fame, money, and the relentless weight of public scrutiny became as much a part of their lives as the Alaskan wilderness they called home. The complex dynamics of living under the microscope of reality television took its toll, testing every member's resilience, not just against nature's harshest elements, but against the internal pressures of their own fractured family unit. What, then, is it that keeps the Browns together despite everything? The easy answer might be the shared history of survival, the sense that no matter how fractured they become, they are still bound by blood, by shared memories, and by the unyielding lessons learned from a life that demands everything of them. Even as they faced growing tensions, betrayals, and legal entanglements, they were, at their core, a family, bound by an invisible thread of loyalty, despite the overwhelming storm of emotions that had swept through them. In a world where the Browns have been seen at their best and worst, there remains an undeniable connection. Through their most challenging moments, they never fully lost sight of what it means to be a family. This is not just a story about survival in the wild, it is about the ongoing battle to survive each other. Personal grief, unresolved conflicts, legal troubles, and the incessant pressure of public life have all become an inseparable part of their journey. Each step they take is shadowed by the weight of who they are and who they used to be, reflecting a family that is as complex and imperfect as the wilderness that surrounds them. As we delve deeper into their lives, we begin to uncover the untold stories, the hidden heartbreaks, and the long-buried family secrets that have shaped the Brown family's legacy. Beneath the surface of their rugged existence lies a tale fraught with tension, tragedy, and survival. Welcome to the real story behind Alaskan bush people, a story where the wilderness is just the backdrop to the far more treacherous terrain of family drama, heartbreak, and human frailty. In the world of reality television, few shows have managed to capture the majestic beauty of the natural world while exposing the raw, unfiltered struggles of family life, quite like Alaskan bush people. From the very beginning, the series resonated with viewers for its portrayal of the Brown family's attempts to carve out a life in one of the most remote and rugged corners of the planet. Their perseverance in the face of adversity made them relatable, drawing millions of fans who admired their grit, ingenuity, and resilience. Yet behind the picturesque landscapes, where snow-capped peaks and dense forests set the stage, the story of the Browns was far more intricate and fraught with tension than anyone could have imagined. The heart of Alaskan bush people has always been the Brown family itself, a close-knit group whose bonds have been tested not only by the unforgiving wilderness, but by the even more unpredictable and at times devastating drama of family life. The show painted a picture of a family that had built its own slice of paradise in the Alaskan frontier, a place where their survival was dictated by ingenuity, hard work, and a shared sense of purpose. Led by patriarch Billy Brown, the family's goal was clear: to live off the land, free from the constraints of modern society, and to thrive in a harsh and unforgiving environment. However, despite their best efforts, tragedy found its way into their lives, with a series of events that would forever change the trajectory of their story. As the family navigated the trials of survival in the wilderness, they were also forced to confront the tumultuous relationships that simmered beneath the surface. Our journey into the family's struggles starts with Noah Brown, the ingenious son whose talents turned the Alaskan wilderness into a canvas for his engineering experiments. Whether it was rigging water systems or crafting makeshift tools from the natural resources at his disposal, Noah's resourcefulness was a key asset to the family's survival. His ability to solve problems with limited resources was legendary, earning him the role of the family's problem solver and go-to mechanic. But beneath his brilliant mind and seemingly unshakable resolve, there lay a man haunted by personal loss. Noah's journey was far from easy. While his innovative spirit was often celebrated, it came at a cost. The pressure of constantly being the family's fixer weighed heavily on him. As he built, repaired, and innovated, there was one thing Noah couldn't fix: his own family's growing internal strife. He found himself caught in the middle of deepening conflicts that threatened to tear the Browns apart. The story of Noah Brown is one of perseverance, yes, but also of vulnerability. Even a man with all the answers, all the solutions, and all the talent in the world cannot escape the emotional challenges of a fractured family. Noah, in many ways, symbolized the heart of the Alaskan bush people saga, the desire to make things work despite overwhelming odds. Yet his greatest test was not overcoming the challenges of the wilderness, but rather keeping the family he loved so dearly from unraveling before his eyes. Noah's struggle is mirrored by the rest of the Brown family, each of whom had their own personal battles and demons to face. The familial conflicts that brewed quietly in the background over the years would soon come to a head, shattering the image of the perfect off-grid family they had carefully cultivated for so long. The growing tension between Noah's wife, Rain Alicia, and his sister, Rain Brown, became a flashpoint for these deeper issues. What began as small disagreements soon spiraled out of control, leading to a public legal battle that cast a shadow over the entire family. The collapse of the Brown family's public image was swift. What had once been a symbol of rugged unity in the face of nature's worst now seemed like a fractured, broken group. This family that had weathered wildfires, avalanches, and freezing temperatures suddenly found themselves battling something far more insidious: themselves. And despite their best efforts, the cracks in their unity couldn't be hidden from the public eye. Legal battles, public feuds, and private heartbreaks became the new reality for the Browns, and no amount of wilderness survival skills could save them from the emotional turmoil they now faced. For Noah, the collapse of his family's unity was perhaps the hardest thing to accept. As a man who had always been able to fix problems with his resourcefulness, the inability to repair the rift between his wife and his sister was a bitter blow. His greatest struggle was no longer against the forces of nature, but against the emotional storms that raged within his own home. Ultimately, the Browns' saga is one of survival. Yes, but not just survival in the wilderness. It is a story of survival within the confines of a family that has been pushed to its limits. Their fight is no longer just about the elements or about proving their worth in the wild. It is about surviving each other. The emotional toll of fame, fortune, and personal loss weighs heavily on them, and the wilderness that once offered them freedom has become a reflection of their internal struggles. The real question is whether they can overcome their personal demons and rebuild what was lost. Can the Brown family survive the battles within their own hearts? Or will the forces that once bound them together ultimately tear them apart? In the end, their journey will always be about more than just surviving the wild. It will be about surviving the hardest challenge of all: each other. But beneath Noah's calm, inventive exterior, family tensions had been quietly simmering. While Noah's role as the family's problem solver had always been celebrated, the weight of his personal conflicts became impossible to ignore. His relationship with his wife, Rain Alicia, who was once known as Ruth, brought both joy and a layer of complicated strife. Rain Alicia, trying to carve her place within the often chaotic Brown family, found herself at odds with other members, especially with the youngest sibling, Rain Brown. Rain Alicia's attempt to establish personal boundaries clashed with the Browns' long-standing dynamics. The Brown family, known for its rugged unity, struggled to accept the changes that Rain Alicia's marriage to Noah brought to the mix. Rain Alicia had been thrust into a family of incredibly strong personalities, and while she had good intentions, her position was never easy. Trying to balance her role as a wife and her own identity with the weight of the Brown family's expectations created more friction than anyone anticipated. The tensions between Rain Brown and Rain Alicia seemed almost inevitable. Rain Brown, once considered the symbol of hope and unity within the family, began to feel sidelined. The closeness she once shared with her siblings seemed to be slipping away as she found herself increasingly at odds with Noah's wife. At first, the disagreements between the two were subtle, small comments and moments of tension. But over time, those minor conflicts grew into something more intense, making the family's previously tight-knit dynamics start to unravel. Fans of Alaskan bush people quickly picked up on the growing friction. Speculation began to swirl about whether Rain Brown felt that Rain Alicia was an outsider, someone who was disrupting the delicate balance of the Brown family's once harmonious existence. The idea that the Brown siblings, who had once seemed inseparable, could be on opposite sides of such a feud sent shockwaves through the fan base. For Noah, who had always been the fixer, the one who could solve any problem, from building off-grid inventions to mediating family disagreements, this was the one challenge he couldn't solve. His role as the family's go-to problem solver didn't prepare him for a rift as personal as this. It wasn't about surviving in the wilderness anymore. It was about surviving the emotional wilderness within his own family. Every attempt Noah made to bridge the gap between his wife and sister seemed to fail, and the divide between them only grew wider. As Noah tried to navigate these difficult waters, balancing his responsibilities as a husband, father, and family member, the strain began to take its toll. His relationship with his wife was becoming more complex, and his relationship with Rain Brown was growing more distant. The weight of trying to maintain the semblance of family unity was pressing down on him, and the cracks in the family foundation were becoming more visible to the public. The situation escalated dramatically in August 2024 when Noah and Rain Alicia filed a restraining order against Rain Brown. The documents contained serious allegations, including accusations of harassment, threats, and even drug use. According to the claims, Rain Brown had used cocaine and meth and had made threats involving firearms. The most alarming part of the allegations was that Noah and Rain Alicia feared for their children's safety, believing Rain Brown's behavior was putting them at risk. For longtime fans of Alaskan bush people, this news was shocking. The family that had once been known for their unity, their ability to withstand nature's harshest elements, and their close bonds was now embroiled in a public legal battle. The image of the Brown family as a cohesive, supportive group was shattered, and fans were left questioning what had gone wrong behind the scenes. In response to the restraining order and the accusations, Rain Brown took to social media to defend herself. She shared her personal struggles with mental health, openly discussing her battles with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. In a candid Instagram post, she denied the more serious allegations of drug use and threats and questioned the motives behind Noah and Rain Alicia's actions. She also took issue with Rain Alicia's decision to change her name from Ruth to Rain, which she felt was a personal betrayal. Despite Rain Brown's attempt to clarify her side of the story, the restraining order was ultimately denied due to insufficient evidence and procedural issues. However, the damage had already been done. The Brown family's carefully constructed image of unity and strength had been irreparably harmed. The public perception of the Browns shifted from admiration to skepticism. Fans who had once viewed them as a symbol of resilience and familial love now saw them as a family torn apart by mistrust, hidden struggles, and unresolved emotional wounds. The repercussions of this internal family drama extended beyond just the Brown family's emotional well-being. The family's business ventures, including their lucrative sponsorships, merchandise sales, and off-screen projects, also began to feel the impact. Companies that had once eagerly partnered with the Brown family were now hesitant. When a public figure's personal issues spill into the public eye, it can have serious financial consequences. The Browns, who had once represented the ideals of self-sufficiency and strength, were now viewed as a liability by some potential partners. Their wilderness survival brand, which had seemed so authentic and untouchable, began to feel more like a facade. Rumors began circulating about the authenticity of the Alaskan Bush People series itself. The show, which had built its success on portraying the Browns as rugged individuals living off the land, was now being questioned. Some former fans and critics alleged that the family didn't live as remotely as they claimed. Reports suggested that they sometimes stayed in hotels during filming breaks, and that certain scenes might have been scripted for dramatic effect. For viewers who had bought into the show's portrayal of extreme survival and authentic off-grid living, these revelations felt like a betrayal. It was no longer just the Browns' personal lives under scrutiny. Now, even the integrity of the show was in question. In the world of reality television, where fans are drawn to authenticity and raw emotion, the fallout from this drama was significant. The Browns had built their reputation on being an authentic, resilient family, and now that very image was being called into question. The impact of this scrutiny was felt in their business dealings, their public image, and most importantly, in their relationships with one another. Noah Brown, once the rock of the family, found himself in an impossible position. He had been the problem solver for so long, but now he was facing a challenge he couldn't fix. The family he had spent years building and protecting was falling apart, and no amount of ingenuity or resourcefulness could put the pieces back together. The Brown family's saga had gone from one of survival in the wild to one of survival in the turbulent world of public perception, and the consequences of their family drama would be felt for years to come. But even as the drama unfolded in courtrooms and on social media, the Browns continued to put on a brave face for the cameras. Yet behind the scenes, the fractures were impossible to ignore. Noah's attempts to shield his family from the conflict only isolated him further from his siblings. Rain Brown, feeling betrayed and cast out, leaned on her social media presence to express her side of the story, even as she struggled with her own inner demons. The story of Noah and Rain Brown is not just one of sibling rivalry, it is a tale of conflicting identities, of family bonds stretched to the breaking point, and of the suffocating pressures of living life in the public eye. As the Brown family navigates the fallout from this explosive conflict, one question remains: can they ever truly heal? But this is just one chapter of the Brown family's saga. The road ahead is uncertain, and the wilderness they once called home may now feel like a refuge compared to the storm of emotions and unresolved grievances they must face. For a family that has survived avalanches, wildfires, and the brutal Alaskan cold, it is the battle within that may be their greatest challenge yet. The fallout between Noah, Rain Alicia, and Rain Brown didn't just stop at the courtroom or in the bruised emotions of a fractured family. It bled into the very foundation of the Brown family's identity. For a family whose fame and fortune were built on the image of rugged unity and resilience, this public feud was like a crack that threatened to shatter everything they had built. At first, the family tried to maintain a brave front, but the consequences of the conflict quickly became impossible to ignore. When news of the restraining order against Rain Brown became public, it wasn't just a scandal, it was a shockwave. Fans who had tuned in for years to watch the Browns overcome nature's fiercest challenges suddenly saw them struggling against a far more personal, human storm. And in the world of reality television, perception is everything. Advertisers, who once saw the Brown family as a wholesome brand to align with, began to hesitate. Sponsorships and merchandise sales, a vital source of income beyond the show itself, began to wane. Companies are quick to distance themselves from controversy, and the once charmed image of the Brown family became a liability. The wilderness survival brand they had cultivated now seemed like a facade, and fans who had idolized their rugged independence began to question everything they thought they knew. But the hit went beyond public perception. it struck at the heart of the family business. Alaskan Bush People, a show that once thrived on the theme of family unity, now had to grapple with a narrative that was anything but united. Rumors began to swirl that producers were worried about the show's future, that tension on set was palpable, and that the Brown family's off-screen drama was overshadowing the survival stories that once captivated viewers. And then, there were the whispers of inauthenticity, claims that the family didn't actually live as remotely as they portrayed, that they took breaks in comfortable hotels, and that some scenes were scripted for dramatic effect. For a series that promised raw, unfiltered wilderness living, these accusations felt like a betrayal to loyal fans. For the Browns, who had once seemed untouchable as symbols of frontier strength, the damage was almost irreversible. But for Noah Brown, the impact of this turmoil was even more personal. To him, the family business wasn't just a job, it was his legacy. For years, Noah had been the family's fixer, the inventive genius who could turn wilderness into a workshop, solving problems with little more than his wits and resourcefulness. But now, faced with a problem he couldn't fix, the unraveling of his own family, he found himself helpless. It's hard to overstate just how deeply this must have cut Noah. The Brown family was his world, and the show was meant to be a testament to their strength. Now it seemed more like a reminder of their fragility. The family's conflicts weren't just damaging their public image, they were threatening to destroy everything they had built together. Noah's sense of failure must have been overwhelming. For a man who had always been able to engineer solutions to impossible problems, this was the one puzzle he couldn't solve. He couldn't bridge the gap between his wife and his sister, couldn't restore the family's shattered unity, and couldn't stop the public from seeing the Browns as just another fractured reality TV family. As the financial fallout continued, lost sponsors, dwindling merchandise sales, and rumors of tension with producers, Noah was left to wonder if all the sacrifice had been worth it. The long days in the wilderness, the pressure of being the family's genius, the weight of holding everyone together, it all seemed like a cruel joke when the family itself began to crumble because of a drama he couldn't control. For the Browns, this was a turning point. The image of the resilient, close-knit family had been replaced by something far more complicated. A portrait of a family divided, struggling not just against the wilderness, but against each other. And for Noah, the fixer, the inventor, the problem solver, this was a challenge he never saw coming. But what happens next? Can the Browns rebuild their image? Can Noah find a way to balance his loyalty to his family with his responsibilities as a husband and father? Or is this the beginning of the end for the Brown family empire? The wilderness is unforgiving, but the true storm the Browns must weather now is the one within their own family. And for Noah, the question is no longer just about surviving. It's about whether he can hold on to the legacy he helped build, or whether he will watch it all fall apart. In the weeks following the public fallout, the Browns struggled to maintain their on-screen image of unity. Production on Alaskan Bush People became a tense affair, with rumors of bitter arguments off camera and a palpable sense of division among the siblings. Crew members whispered about Noah's growing isolation, the once reliable problem solver now caught in a problem he couldn't solve. Noah tried to keep a low profile, avoiding social media and public appearances, but the speculation only grew. Fans debated whether he was the villain or the victim, and gossip columns speculated endlessly about the fate of the Brown family's brand. Noah's wife, Rain Alicia, also found herself under a harsh spotlight, criticized by some fans who blamed her for the rift within the family. But for Noah, the real pain wasn't in the headlines. It was in the quiet moments, the empty silences where laughter used to be. Family gatherings became tense, every word weighed carefully, every glance a potential spark for conflict. The wilderness, once a symbol of freedom and adventure, now seemed like a prison. an endless, unyielding reminder of a life built on a foundation that was beginning to crumble. The Browns may have survived the harshest elements Alaska could throw at them, but this was a different kind of survival. And for Noah, it was a question of whether he could rebuild the trust and love that once defined his family, or whether he would be forced to watch it all fall apart.